couple things that you'll hear on the podcast today are how to choose hard as a parent, how to celebrate individual talents and abilities, the fact that us operating from our overflow as parents is critical because that obviously flows into our kids, and then just some all-around ticks and tacks that we've picked up from people above us, ahead of us, which is always going to be critical. I think you'll enjoy it. All right. God, I thank you for your anointing.
Yes. Just say that. Just pray.
Maybe
a
little
bit.
extra over here. Just a
little prayer.
God, thank you for Molly, especially. Thank you for her parenting. Just correct what needs to be corrected, God. Sharpen that iron. We love you. Thank you for a fun podcast, a great conversation, and just fun things in our life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Well, thanks for joining us today on Heart to Heart.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. What is on your heart for parenting? Like, what's been something that you think I have a lot of things I know we're in the middle of.
I've got 7 things I want to start working on right now. And I'd like you to join me as we sharpen each other.
Okay.
I think when I think about parenting and just having conversations about it and the whole idea, so much of it is the atmosphere and environment that we create. And I just think that we're absolutely responsible for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as wild and unique as all of everyone's kids are, right? Siblings are so different. My brother's traveling Europe teaching yoga right now. That's different than what I do, right?
Yeah.
Raised in the same house.
Yeah.
Our kids are so different.
Yeah, they are.
But I can't help but think about that. If you're picturing parenting, it's like, what atmosphere are you creating? What environment has been intentionally or created by default?
Yeah.
And so I just think maybe that's something that we think about and talk about a little bit. Like, I know for us, we think about like this is funny, but like just a winning atmosphere. Mm-hmm. I want our kids coming home from school. It's like, what was great today? How did you win today? And that's not to overlook or minimize anything hard. That's what makes you a winner, right? So I think all of that's encompassing. But what are your thoughts from the female side of things? Like, it's fun for me to talk about winning, but like creating that kind of an atmosphere in our kids, that kind of a mindset in our kids. What do you think of first?
Well, no, I just think of being intentional. And it's funny because we've been at Guts for all of our 20s, all of our 30s, and now starting our 40s, which is crazy.
Some of us are halfway through our 40s, Molly.
Some of us.
Just clipping.
I'm there. I'm just starting my 40s. But when I think about it, Pastor Bill has said so many times from the stage that how they pastor, how him and Pastor Sandy pastor is how they parent.
Yep.
And we have watched them parent and have watched the Houstons and the Fishers and a lot of these seasoned parents. We've had the privilege of watching them and asking them questions and pursuing and being intentional with, like, how did you navigate this? Or what was your approach to that? And Pastor Bill's always said he's responsible for how we think, and he, as a church and as a congregation. And I've always paused at that initially because I'm like, man, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on the way to school this week, you know, we're in the middle of state testing, and our girls are
trying out for stuff,
for things. And a lot of our conversations have been centered around what are you thinking? How are you thinking? And asking those questions and teaching them, especially when they were younger. Like with, Brave and Landry, we are basically telling them, this is how you're going to think. This is how we think. This is how we speak. As the girls are getting older, I know I'm having to listen more to hear how they're thinking, and then say, okay, here's how I want you to think, or here's a great thought. What do you think about that? And
you told me this actually, and I'm sure you heard it somewhere, or the Holy Spirit told you.
I'm always listening to.
But you said that we create their inner voice.
Yes.
Right. So
they hear us. Yeah, they hear our voices.
Our voice is their inner voice, especially kind of as they're developing.
Yeah.
So if we're wondering how they're thinking, we've got to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think about like our girls in those competitive situations, or potentially any kind of layer of pressure kind of situation. They're going to hear what we told them.
Right.
Blakely's shooting free throws in a 3rd grade basketball game. What's she thinking in that moment? Cooper's at a tryout. Like, what are you thinking when you know that there's some eyes on you, or you're taking that pop quiz, or somebody says something that you don't agree with, or whatever it is, man, their initial response is going to be what we have spoken into their lives
before that moment.
100%.
And so, yeah, creating that atmosphere and culture in our home and consistently thinking and it not always feel like we're constantly on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a responsibility and there's intention there, but it's most of the time it's the in-betweens or those little moments where you're really great at this, where I would sometimes want to, not right now, or in a minute, like when they're approaching us with a question or an invitation or something, you're really quick to say, let me finish these two things and then I'll come and find you. Or if those two things can wait, you're really great at saying, yeah, let's go jump in the pool, or let's go build that fort, or in that moment. And I think it's those responses in the moment that really do begin to create those consistent opportunities of creating that culture and creating the winning, outlook and perspective. I mean,
well, it's harder to say yes.
Yeah.
Right? Schedule wise.
Now, and it's crazy because the older they get, I feel like the harder it is.
Yeah.
I mean, their schedules are competing now with our schedules, and we're having to
Well,
navigate.
but I can think about like Brave, who's 6, and somebody said this, like, there's going to be a time where he quits asking to play with you all the time.
Oh, why
I
did
know.
you say that?
Well, I hate them too, Molly. I'm just saying, somebody else said it, and so, but that rings in my head.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of something, and he'll say, "Dad, do you want to play dinosaurs?" And I don't, but it is harder, and it requires more effort to say yes.
Yeah.
And he deserves that.
Yes.
Right. And one, the sad side of he might not ask every day in 5 years, but if that's the season that we're in and we can say yes to that, or whatever it might be. Back in the day, it was, Dad, will you come put a dress on and jump on the trampoline? Also not my favorite thing to do.
Not brave.
Right. The girls.
The girls.
But I'd come home from like a seemingly long day, and that was
Right.
the only thing that they wanted. It's better than going to Disney is jumping on that trampoline dressed up.
Yeah.
It's harder to say yes, but so much more worth it.
Yeah.
And then creates at least part of this environment that we're aspiring to create. Man, this is a family. This is a unit. This is a team. I do think 2 other things that come to mind just very practically on creating the atmosphere are having intentional moments, because you're right, the in-between is everything. Like Jesus's ministry, like 50% of his miracles were in the in-between from going one place to another. But the 2 things that we do set in place pretty regularly are meals together.
Yep.
And then our team meeting on Sunday nights.
And fighting for those.
Yeah.
And understanding, okay, this is a priority. And so with the busyness of the schedule, sometimes, I mean, there's been weeks where I'm like, we have to have dinner at 4:00 or 4:30. A
Which
pre-dinner.
I love.
You do.
And if we can do dinner at 4 and 8, that's great as well. Like the double dinner, maybe that's the
That's
key to
my
all of it.
point, though. Just to have the flexibility
Right.
within the responsibility that we're committed to this. So if from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. we're spread out in different places, what am I creating and prioritizing from 4 to 5
Right.
and 8 to 9?
Because the objective is to have dinner together.
Right.
What that looks like might be different consistently, and that's okay. And I do think the idea, we go high, low, buffalo,
Yeah.
and it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's fun.
Because it creates a little bit of thinking and better communication than a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking forward to the buffalo. Buffalo is just the random one.
And
right?
Brave can never remember what the high, like what is a high again?
Buddy, you know the difference between highs and lows, but
I
he
think
loves
he
to
just
ask a
likes
question.
to ask. But it's
the
important.
buffalo's fun because we get to hear what was random.
Right.
But it also, I like that it's hopefully helping to teach our kids to track what could have been better, but also track what was great.
Yeah.
Like, what are we thanking God for? What are we excited about? This was a win today, right? And if we can stack wins, then that just becomes the flow of our lives.
Yeah.
Talk about the team meeting a little bit on Sunday nights.
Well, and to your credit, you are very committed to this, and I think we've developed and have grown.
You're gonna love
with
it at some point, Molly.
I do love it. I do love it because It is a great time to come back together Sunday nights before the new week starts and ask those questions. Typically, you have something on your heart that you want to share with all of us.
Little coaching point for mom, and then the kids can listen to. But heck no.
But no,
It's something that we're kind of realizing
I
should
think
be
it's
focused on.
Because here's the thing, what I love about the team meetings, in addition to our conversations at the times we're at the table, is it's just it's keeping the communication lines open.
Yeah.
I did a internship over a summer, and I had weekly dinners with the pastors that I was interning for. And he had 4 daughters, and that is one of my biggest takeaways from that time with his family was just the communication lines were open, and he was asking them questions, and they were having to answer similar questions that we do. And I think at those team meetings, coming to them with ready questions to ask, whether or not they want to answer them, they at least know our parents are interested and our parents are asking these questions and giving us space to answer them. And then I think the coolest part about it is not only do we get our calendars in alignment for the week, like, okay, this is what we have coming up, this is what you have coming up, but the kids can say, man, we always ask them, what's coming up this week? Like, what do you need help with this week? What's something you're excited about this week? And getting them to think like that, to be ready, to be prepared. And it's a funny balance, because having us as parents, I can only imagine how they consistently feel coached, just because we're constantly coaching.
Yeah.
And so we have to, I think that's our balance. Like, that's one of the things that we have to recognize. A strength out of balance can become a weakness, where we are creating moments not just for coaching, but also for, what would be the opposite of that? Like, just for enjoyment.
It's okay that it's not productive. It's okay that you're just being a kid and telling us a silly
running
story.
around and telling us a silly story. And
I do think somebody asked me that one time. We were talking about the team meeting, and it probably seemed more like official.
Rigid
or well done. But I was like, don't come watch one. Brave's got his shirt off. He's gnawing on the couch or wrestling Deuce, our dog, or what. But the idea is we make our family and the unity of the family a priority.
Yes.
So if it's an effective meeting structure or not, we do this on Sunday nights, and our heart with it really is let's come into the week unified.
Yes.
And then there's 2 questions, and you hit on one of them, but the other question is, what was great this past week?
Yeah.
And we get to celebrate people's highlights. Like, Cooper scored 3 goals. That's great. Blakely did great on a test. That's great. Brave made a friend. And that's fun. And so we can document those and celebrate those later. But then simultaneously, what's top of mind going into this week? It's state testing this week, or I have an audition. Great. Now we're in it together.
Yeah.
And our kids or us don't ever have to feel isolated in what we're coming into.
Yeah.
If I'm traveling that week, it's cool for everybody to be aware of that. What helps you the most? If you've got an event, whatever it might be, it's cool to think, I do have a role to play in the family.
Yeah.
So that we can make it great for everybody.
Yeah. Why do you think you're so great at asking the questions? And because you do that well, you ask really great questions to get the kids talking. But why do you think that is? What contributed to that being something that is important to you?
Oh, thank you. That was a kind thing to say.
You're welcome. Write it down.
I was on a fishing trip one time with a guy that had teenage daughters well before ours were close to that. And I just was asking for some insight. And he said the key, a lot of people do a lot of things. I think the one key is keep your kids talking. Keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about that, especially knowing our girls were coming into that age. And I just have heard stories of girls especially kind of shutting down, and especially maybe with dad, it gets awkward or uncomfortable because of puberty or whatever. And I just thought, man, if we're doing this now and that's the habit and maybe the standard, why would that have to change from 8 to 15 if it's something we consistently do? Yeah. And I'll never forget, I came back from that trip and Blakely was younger. And I just went in a room that night, on a mission, I'm gonna open lines of communication. And it really did work. We do our questions at dinner, but it was just me and her, and I was tucking her in. I was like, hey, is there anything else that happened today that I should know about? And she told me this like long story and then got emotional at the end of it, which shocked me because it wasn't. And then she just goes, I'm so glad I told you that. Oh. And for years, like she would come in and say, hey, I got something for you at bedtime.
Yeah.
And then you'd come back and say, hey, what'd you guys talk about at bedtime? We'd catch up and have a plan for it. Yeah. But it was neat that it created a safe place for those kind of conversations. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, what kind of craziness happened today that hasn't been communicated yet? And so it's been neat to see that flow. And I'm just like, man, if we're talking, then nothing's off the table. Sin grows in the darkness, so let's take that off. Hey, you made a mistake today. And I'm glad that it happened under our roof, so that we can do part of the stuff we're good at, which might be coaching or helping, or so that's putting the strength in its proper place and actually create the atmosphere for that.
Well, and I think coaching paired with like celebrating and unconditional love is only going to produce.
Do you think the listeners know the Well Done story?
I don't know.
Is that worth it?
Sure.
The whole idea. It's not the greatest book ever written. Sorry, whoever wrote it. But the one takeaway is how they train killer whales. And we went to SeaWorld as a family recently. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But the premise is you're taking the killers of the ocean and training them to do tricks for people. It's a wild premise. How do you do it? And they put the whale in the tank, and there's a rope at the bottom. And if the whale accidentally swims over the rope, they celebrate and go crazy.
Yeah.
They feed it, the whole thing. Then they raise the rope. It's in the middle of the tank. Can you get over the rope? Now the rope's at the top of the tank, and the whale knows if I can simply get over the rope, I will get rewarded and celebrated.
Right.
Well, now they can take that thing out of the water because it's trained like that.
Yeah.
So there's something to the idea of that atmosphere of celebration.
Yeah, and the training and reward.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that. And it might be, hey, I know we told you 100 times to make your bed, but you made your bed, and we're going to celebrate it.
Right, and looking for that.
Yes.
Like, that's probably the challenge with some of the parenting, especially the day-to-day that we personally experience, is finding the moments of celebrating. Yep. Like, finding the good in those seasons.
Molly called me out on this. We were in a season with our oldest daughter where I was correcting a lot.
Yes.
And I was like really looking for like everything. You could have ran a little faster. You could have. What if your hair flipped to the right a little bit? I mean, for some reason, I got in the zone.
Those are extreme examples, but yes, there was a lot of corrections.
And you picked up on it.
Yeah.
Kind of saw how it was affecting her, how she was responding to it.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. You brought up her heart, right? Like, let's protect her heart. And your advice was, what if for every critique, there are 10 attagirls?
Yeah, like good things. 10
things you can find
and celebrate.
And intentionally celebrate. And, I like reluctantly agreed to it. And
I said, do it for one day.
It was shocking. Like it was so eye-opening. Like I felt bad because then I'd be like, hey, I like your pants. I like your face. Because I'm just trying to like get through 10 because I wanted to correct her so bad. And it was great to shift that bad habit that I had gotten into. Again, strength out of balance. I wanted to be great.
Yeah.
And I could make that excuse on why I'm acting like this, or just realize I've become overly critical in this season and it needed to be stopped.
Yeah.
And so for anybody that might find themselves there, I love that formula.
Yeah. 10 to 1.
10 to 1 is powerful. And it's a really cool habit to create, to look for those opportunities and get good at finding the things to celebrate.
What you focus on gets bigger.
Come on.
And I want to go all the way back to one thing that we said. We have always sought out. Like we know what we don't know at all. Like we know
we are very aware.
We need yes. And I think that is huge. I think having the vulnerability and the awareness to say, as parents, we want resources. We want people in our lives that have older kids, that are grandparents. Like the resource we have in some of those relationships that we've invested in and that we have pursued has planted seeds in our heart for where we're living right now.
Yep.
We didn't wait until our oldest was a teenager to ask those questions and to seek that counsel. And I love that. I never want to stop. Like I love to coach. I love to champion people, but I've always tried to be coachable. I've always tried to put a priority on receiving.
Yep.
And because I want to sow those seeds, because I want my kids to be coachable. I want them to be consistently open to receiving. And it's like that, I'll never forget, one of the elders here, Terry Fisher and Julie Fisher, amazing parents. They have a heart for parenting and things like that. And that was one of the things. He's raised 3 amazing daughters. And that was one of the things he said, like, how did he say it? Keep the influence of your daughter's heart. Like, protect the influence you have with her heart or something. And it was just, I took that and I'm like, yes, like I always want to make sure that I'm protecting that and I'm using it and like nurturing it in the right way.
And maybe that's where some people just miss the power of the local church because that resource is here.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't have to go look for it. I didn't have to call a counselor I'd never met or something like that. Like there were, a guy that has raised 3 fantastic daughters sits next to us in church.
Yep.
And it's crazy. We have 3 daughters, right? Yeah. So it was just, it was amazing to see. But I also think like that's the reality of having like ups and outs and downs in your life. Where is there a lack, right? If you're lacking business guidance, find an up in business.
Right.
And I think specifically for parenting, man, who has parented well?
Yep.
And, the word says that they know us by our fruit. So I just think we get to look and say, man, what's the fruit of these kids' lives? Mm-hmm. What's the fruit of that married couple now that they've got, kids out of the house, that kind of thing. And so it's fun to have that availability and access because we're planted in the church. Yeah. And we get to do that and see that and then benefit from it and get called out on stuff that we didn't realize was a blind spot and implement things that we would have never known to do in the first place.
Absolutely. It is. It's been a joy. I think another thing that pops up a lot, just with conversations I have with other moms or something like that, is I was at a lunch a couple weeks ago, and a mother was just expressing just a lot of like, man, we're just going through a lot. It just seems like every day it's something else, and it's just hard. And it just hit me. I'm like, parenting is hard for the parents that care. Parenting is hard for the parents that show up and are invested. And that's okay. Like, I guess, and I just encouraged her. I said, hard is a sign that you're putting in the work, and it's okay. I said, but we're called to care, but not carry the burden of parenting. Like I was like, in these moments where we begin to feel a hardship or a hardness in parenting, I think is an indicator that we're doing it in our own strength. We're not trusting God. We're probably not submitting ourselves as parents in an area that, the scriptures are going to pull out of us, whether it's pride or whether it's, people pleasing. Like, I want my kid to do this. And so I'm going to force that. I'm going to schedule that. I'm going to manufacture that. And it's like, that's in your own strength, and that could be out of alignment with what God has for that child and even has for your family. And so I think we don't shy away from the hard things that parenting brings, because that's a lot of times where the most fruit can be produced. But man, be spirit led in what's becoming hard or harder, and are you submitted? Are you seeking God first? Are you in the right flow to help with the load? Yeah.
Well, you had a little zinger in there. We've got to care, but not carry it.
Yes.
Is that how you said it?
Yeah, like cast. Well, because we're called to cast our cares, and if we're carrying it, there's a lack of trust with like, God, I don't know if I can trust you with this. I'm gonna carry it a little bit.
We can't parent in our own strength. That's a losing battle.
Yeah.
Well, and I like where you're going too, just the idea, it is hard. But then something we're trying to communicate to our kids is choose hard.
Yeah. Choose your hard.
And so we have to example that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think also the reality is new is hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? It like any
We've never done this before.
you are our first 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? You're our first boy. You're whatever it might be. And it's the first time navigating other humans in the season that we're in.
Right.
And I think that's the reality. We're building businesses and navigating friends, and our parents are getting older, and all the stuff that might be a circumstance of your life. So it's new, which means it's hard, but that's what's so amazing about like having the power of the Holy Spirit, because he's our comforter.
Yeah.
So we're not skipping hard or resisting hard or excusing our way away from it. We're embracing it, knowing that the Holy Spirit will comfort it so that we will embrace it. And then the cool thing is, so full circle, now we're choosing hard, which is what we want our kids to do.
Right.
And our kids are catching us doing the right thing.
Yes.
Right? Like it's hard to wake up early in the morning. It's hard to go work out. It's hard to whatever. But we want our kids to see that and then emulate it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I am quick to apologize. Like I am, maybe not to you sometimes, which we need to probably show them that more.
Maybe we do it. We'll talk about that. That's great.
But when I know that I have overstepped or overreacted, or I want my kids to see the apology. I want the other kids to see the apology, see resolution.
Why?
Well, because I want them to be able to do that at school, do that with, their friends and hopefully their future family. And, I think there was a podcast I was listening to, and one thing that they said that Blakely was probably a couple years ago. And, there's always the rub, or you've mentioned it, like the teenage years can be some of the most miserable years or difficult years, or, especially for mothers and daughters, or, and this podcast was like, don't believe the lie. And one of the things they said is a lot of times the reason there is so much tension between a parent and their teenage child is because the parent's perspective is as if this teenage year is their last years of childhood. Instead, we need to see it as their first years of adulthood.
Yeah.
And when you have the right perspective, everything changes. Because if I'm looking at these preteen years and the teenage years as preparing them, preparation for adulthood, it changes. I'm not like pulling them back into this place of childhood.
You're going to lead them way differently.
I'm leading them differently. Yeah. I'm pushing them differently. Sometimes you just get out of your own way, get out of their way. And that has been game changer. Just the right perspective. I want the girls to see, I want them to see humility. I want them to see honor. I want them to see someone who hear God's voice and is quick to obey. Because to me, those are the big things. Yeah. I want them to be great friends. I want them to we've always, ever since they were little, the big three things: obedient, respectful, and kind. Those are the first three things we taught them. These are the big three. We're always obedient, right away, all the way, happy way. That was Elisa Bevere thing when she spoke years ago at Guts. And then respectful, respect's huge. And then we're just kind. So we've always hit those things, but it's grown as they've gotten older. And I'm like, I just want the main thing to be, I want them to love God.
Yeah.
I want them to love people. But I just want there to be a humility and an honor where they are in a place to receive what God has for them.
I thought once they learn to read, we should move on from school, right? You can read. All you got to do is be able to read, do some basic math, and hear the voice of God. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
It's that's the stuff. And I do think too, you're talking about seasons, and man, I know we're figuring that out too, but really recognizing the season per kid.
Yes.
Because each kid is so different.
There's 6 seasons in our house right now between us.
True.
And the kids.
That's a great point. Well, and if you assumed it was a harvest season, but it was actually a sowing season, the whole thing's mixed up and you're not going to get what you want.
Yeah. So
Right? It's like, no, you didn't bring your seed. This is a time to sow. Or, vice versa. It's like, dude, it's time to harvest. You're not ready for it.
Right.
Right. So I think too, there's a lot of times, and it is funny with the kids, we laugh, it's like, man, we taught the first two to ride a bike and then we kind of forgot. Or wait, you can't tie your shoes? Shoot, we skipped it, whatever it is. But
she
really,
can tie the right one really well. I don't know why she can't tie the left one.
what's up with that?
I don't know.
Maybe she's a genius.
It's a genius.
That's like a genius thing.
Yeah, you're right.
But recognizing what each kid needs. I remember at Landry, we'd come home, and if we would hold her for a couple minutes, she was great. And if not, it was like she was deficient.
Yeah. Well, recognizing their love language,
Totally.
kind of what you're saying, like how they receive, how they give.
Blakey wants legitimate quality time, quantity time, right? So, but I think and then too, it seems like there's seasons to that as well.
Yeah.
Right? There's the development of just a kid and hopefully the development of us.
Yeah. Well, and I like what kind of the season we've been in as a church, whereas, we're obviously in this season of legacy, and legacy has been really huge and just in the forefront of our mind. And like, I can't help but think of legacy without realizing it's all about the seeds right now.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing right now to produce the legacy that's going to outlive me? It's bigger than me. Like, that's the goal. The goal is the things that we're doing right now, they carry on. Like, part of my dad's legacy in my life is the verses that he would make us do on the way to school every morning.
Yeah.
And I remember like being so annoyed as a kid, but it was that was an expectation. This is what we do on the way to school. And so what was the first thing I did? What was my fallback when I'm taking Blakely to school? We did the verses.
Did some verses.
And that became a part of and so that's where I'm like, what am I creating? What are we creating that is going to look like legacy when I'm not around, when I'm not there?
Well, and I think that probably ties in pretty good with like our family code, because that creates real expectations, and maybe a better word is real standards. And so kind of what we did there is we had a list of words that we wanted to define us, and that were important to us. Some we're still working on, some are dialed in, whatever. But I think it's really cool for anybody listening to kind of think about that idea. Our last name's Hart. Like, what do we want when people hear the last name Hart? What are they thinking of? What are they seeing? What's the reality of that?
Yeah.
And it was actually really cool to kind of boil it down and see what you thought and what I thought and what some of the kids thought and where are all the overlaps on that. And then we took it and kind of boiled it down to 5 words and then just put like a simple action sentence to that word.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Some, confidence and grit and energy and compassion and, things that we hold dear, but also letting our kids help define it. But I think the power of it then is anything that doesn't align with that becomes obvious.
Yep.
Right? Like if you lie in our house, man, integrity is one of our core values.
Right.
Lying doesn't fit there. And so then what it ultimately becomes, to your point, is a legacy piece. This is who we are. This is what we represent. This is what we carry with us in school, on the field.
Right.
I want them going to college someday talking about the epic family vacations we went on and the standards we live by.
Yeah.
And that's who they are, and that's what's been developed because the expectation was clear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Well, and it's just I think of that your fruit may endure.
Yeah.
Like there's that season where he prunes the branches that produce fruit so that you'll produce more fruit. And then a promise that we have is that the fruit we produce endures.
Yeah.
And the fruit is what we enjoy. The fruit is what other people can experience and take with them and reproduce.
Yeah.
And so making it easy to translate and easy to catch and reproduce, I think is huge. Those bite-sized words, those action statements, the verses in the morning. It's like
winners win.
Well, that's that too. You're
supposed to say funny. Winners win, and then they say I'm a winner, but Brave added.
And losers.
I'd say winners win, and Brave go and losers lose. And I'm like, but then you go, but I'm a winner, and that's it. And that's
I know.
I didn't say it this morning. He goes, Dad. I'm like, dude, my bad. Winners win.
Yeah.
Losers lose. And I'm a winner. That's it.
I think it's interesting because moments like this, we're always out front. We're wanting to lead with like, man, these are the high things. These are the things that we put intentional effort to do and to do well. But what are some of the things, this is probably my like counterpart to your like extrovert, like
everything's happy.
Everything's happy. Everything's awesome. We win every day, which we do. But then I'm also on the other side. It's like, okay, but where are the areas, like blind spots, or where are the areas that we want to be aware of, and that we're actively seeking wise counsel, or we're in the Word over this? And what would you say we're walking through right now, or something that we're navigating?
That's a great question. I think you probably agree with this. The spectrum in our house right now is 6-year-old boy to 14-year-old girl.
Yep.
So there's a whole lot of opinion and there's a whole lot of emotion potentially with each person.
Yeah.
And they counteract and then also ignite each other because of the diversity. And so I think a big thing that we're, trying to stay out in front of and really walk in authority on is always looking for and eliminating strife. Mm-hmm. Because what we've said is like this will be a house of peace and joy.
Yes.
Like when people come into our house, that's a premium for us.
Yes.
Man, I want there to feel peace, because you can walk into a house and tell if there's not peace.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that we have that. And there are absolutely times when it's not what we would say. And I think that's important to communicate that. We've got 2 girls that share a room, and they can get after each other, especially when it's time to clean that room, or, whatever it might be. Or Brave's got an opinion about what everyone should be doing, and it's not what girls want to do at that time. Or the teenager has an opinion about the kids, or, so I think just that's something that we're absolutely trying to stay out in front of and very aware of. Yeah. And so because of that, 1, we're seeking wise counsel on it. And then 2, speaking to it consistently. Yeah. Like I actually, I don't know if I told you this, I've got declarations I do every day. And one of mine right now is I will only speak life to every member of my family. Just because I want to set that tone. Because I want the girls sharing the room to only speak life to each other about picking up their room or what their bed looks like or whatever. Yeah. So that, I guess maybe that's my point. I'm aware that that's something that needs our attention and our focus right now. So I just wanted to make sure I was doing my part as a leader in the home to set the tone for that, but make sure I'm doing it right so that it flows from there.
There was a popular quote floating around, and it was like, leadership is the problem, leadership is the solution. Yeah. And I was laughing the other day with you because I said you could just say parenting is the problem and parenting is the solution. I don't think there's ever been another season in my life where I am consistently confronted with the opportunity for growth in myself. Yep.
Because you can visually see it in an 8-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Or like her response to something. Yeah. I'm immediately reminded of, she heard that from me first, or she saw me say that, or, like her tone was 100% learned, and from her mother. And so I think for me, I'm very quick to take ownership. And I just think in that season, or in this point in our life, we're committed to that. As the leader of the home, you are always out front and willing to take the hit. But as your wife, as your helpmate, as someone who takes this responsibility of motherhood, it's a mission. It's not just, this is a calling. And so I take it very seriously. It's like, I am right alongside you. Like, we are in step of whatever is coming at us, we're going to give it something hard to hit. Yeah. And I know a foundational verse for our family is that in Matthew, where it talks about the foundation that the houses were built on. And I think one thing every parent has to be doing is consistently communicating with each other. What is our foundation looking like? What does what's the foundation that we're building on right now? Is it on the rock or is it on the sand? Is there a chief cornerstone piece missing right now?
Yeah.
Or because we're not immune to hard times and things coming and hitting our home.
That verse says it all. The storm hit both.
Yes.
It's great you built your house on the rock. The storm still hit it.
Right.
That doesn't make you immune to the storm.
Yeah.
But you can withstand the storm. And it says it vehemently hit. I mean, it gets very graphic. And one fell, and the calamity was great.
And we're teaching them on how to build that foundation.
Yeah. And I give you a lot of credit. Your ride or die mindset probably learned. Your mom's a good example of that, but like learned here at the church. Pastor Sandy's that.
Yes.
You know, like that gives just me as the dad and the husband such a confidence to want to be out front, to want to set the tone. And I've, you hear it, it's like, hey, this is a parenting podcast. The reality is, if we're healthy in our marriage, the parenting flows from there.
Yeah.
Our home will be healthy if I put you first.
Yeah.
It is God above everything, and then it is your spouse, and everything has to flow from there. That's why date nights are critical. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, we try to sneak in a lunch every week. We, just little things. Let's say, hey, this is my favorite night. You kids do the dishes tonight. We're taking a daggone walk, and it's going to be great. But it's all those intentional connecting points so that we're healthy, we're unified. Our unity leads to synergy, and then the family can flow from there. Yeah. And I told it to another guy. I just said, hey, when you come in, you got to go kiss your wife first for the optics of it. Like if you feel like it or not. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. But he said he started doing that. And like in 2 weeks, immediately noticed his kids seeing them differently.
Wow.
Like they saw, because he'd come in and want to wrestle the kids. And he goes, literally, it'd be 45 minutes later, I'd go say hi to my wife.
Like they saw
the shift of priority and noticed it. And it was as simple as, and it's fun. You might have a kid on your leg. Yeah. Hey, we're going to kiss mama first. Yeah. It's me and her, and you guys are going to reap the benefit of that.
That would probably be an interesting question, especially as your kids get older. But even I would love to hear Brave's response. Like, what do you think is a priority for dad? Yeah. What do you think is a priority for mom? And just kind of hearing what do they see as our priorities.
Have your actions and maybe has your calendar proven the priority? Yeah. Heck yeah, we'll move a work trip around to be at your game. Yeah. Of course, is it a date night? Yes, we do that every week. Yeah. They do get to see it. I hope that would maybe help their answers a little bit, but they are seeing it.
Well, and I think it also gauges what are they noticing? What are they looking for? And then making sure we're hitting that mark and doing it well.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Maybe a final thing, I was at lunch with a few guys right before this, and we were just talking about that idea that if in the society today we can be intentional about raising warriors, they will absolutely stand out because most people aren't focused on that. Like we talked about choosing hard, but just like doing the next difficult thing, doing the thing that other people wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. But I think for real, like this is almost like cheesy how we grew up, like warriors for the kingdom. Do you know what I mean? Like in time warriors, whatever. But
I'm a little bit younger than you. But
that's it. Maybe. That's it. Maybe that one you couldn't, and you weren't allowed to listen to rap. I was Christian rap's great. But this idea of like what are we building them for? Yeah. It's because I need them to stand out, stand up and stand out in society. Yeah. So that's what I want them to see us doing. But then that's going to be a theme of our home. And
it's going to require you to, it's countercultural.
Right.
It's going to be, if we're building kids, warriors, kingdom-minded children, we've got to guard against the influence that we're allowing in how we parent and how we build and what we're building. And I'm always cautious of the trends. I'm always cautious of the labeling or the gentle parenting and all the things that are it's making its way through the culture. I think as a church and as parents who are raising warriors and kids that are supposed to look different, talk different, act different, we have to parent different.
Yes.
And to me, truth wrapped in love is the response to gentle parenting, because I'm not going to just allow them to do whatever they want to do to find their way. Like that, for me personally, that's just,
well,
it's not wisdom.
And truth is what creates change. But sometimes that truth can't be palated without love connected to it.
It all has to be around love. And if that's your number one goal, creating an environment that we're raising warriors, but with the foundation of, man, they know God. They know that they're loved. They know that God loves them. And that they have a love for what and who they're fighting for. Right? Like, we're not just, I know you and I raising Brave is it's funny because you have certain things in your mind of like, this is what my son is going to.
He's a wild lion. Yes.
And I have certain things in my heart and my mind that I want to make sure he is and does. And sometimes they can clash, but I think the best picture of that is a warrior who knows what he's fighting for. Like there is a heart. Maybe not to be cheesy, but it's kind of like David. I mean, he was a warrior, but he had a shepherd's heart. He had a heart after God's own heart. And, but he wasn't afraid of the fight because the fight was against his God. Right? And he took that personal. And I just think that's where it's like we are raising kids that are going to understand what the main things are. And it's the kingdom of God. And you're here on purpose for a purpose. And you can be confident in that. And you can know that the culture, and here's the other thing is I am not ever afraid or in fear of the time I'm raising kids in.
Right.
Yes, it's crazy. I'm like, I literally have to guard, what did I just read or what did I just see? Right? But I will not be in fear of that because I know right now these kids were born for a purpose and on a purpose, and I'm their parent on purpose.
And we were
for a purpose.
given the opportunity and responsibility right now to raise them in this season.
So I'm going to show up for it, and I'm going to do it well, and I want them to, I'm going to give it my best shot 100%. But I think Brave was awarded the Empathy Award at school this week. And it made us both so proud.
Yeah, it was great.
Because of the three examples the teacher gave, I'm like, okay, as hard as you are on him.
But next week I do want him to win the Beat a Kid Up Award. So that's fine. I don't know how those completely go together.
But it honestly was exactly what I needed to hear. As a mom, it was like, okay, he gets it. He is going to be He's getting it.
And the cool thing is we've said, hey, you're big. He's a big kid.
Yeah.
So you take care of everybody smaller than you.
Yes.
And it obviously had an effect because he's been looking out for the kids in his class, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it is a cool balance to see because we put a premium on it.
Yeah. And I think there was a season, and probably the last thing I would want to say, or I don't know how we're doing on time or not, but I think there was a season where I felt the enemy was really after my joy of parenting, my joy of being a mom. And, the correlation of the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Yeah.
And in his presence is fullness of joy. So if I am feeling that my joy is under attack, or I don't even like saying that term, but if there was a lack of joy, I know how to fix that, getting in his presence. But also finding, looking for it, because it's there.
Yeah.
And I can say, coming through that, one of the best parts has been focusing on the things that are joyful.
Yeah.
And enjoying those things. Choosing to enjoy the season we're in, the children we have, the marriage we're building, and the task at hand.
Yeah.
Choosing to enjoy this responsibility, because there's nothing like it and no one else can do it.
Right.
I'm the only mom for these kids.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for my best friends. I'm thankful for the couples that we are doing life with. I'm thankful for this church. Just hearing what Blakely got to do in GYC last night, and how much energy it was, and everyone like supporting everyone with the lip sync battle, and then what was going on in Guts Kids with the dodgeball, and hearing some of my best friends were all volunteering, and in those moments recording, and like I wouldn't want to do life with any of these other people. And I'm so thankful for their influence and their friendship, but I'm these kids' only mom.
Yeah.
And I want to show up for that. And I refuse to lose my joy in that, you know?
Well, and what you just said, we talked about earlier, like parenting's hard. That's great. Don't make it harder by isolating and not utilizing resource and opportunity that's available.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I think what you ultimately really recognized was joy is a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
So it's always available.
That's good.
Right? So it's not like that doesn't change with circumstance or time or personnel. It's a fruit of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is yours and it is available. But because the joy of the Lord is our strength, what the devil likes to do is attack our joy to decrease our strength.
Yeah.
And now we're operating from a place of seeming weakness as a parent because there's no joy. It's just this whole cycle that feeds itself. But the reality is, man, I can have peace anytime because it's a fruit of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with joy. And I think that's maybe that just becomes one of the declarations or, whatever it needs to be. Like, I will be in joy.
Right.
In it, like surrounded by it, overflowing with it, even in the midst of navigating new things, which are hard things that require the absolute best of us.
Yeah.
It requires the most of us, and it deserves the best of us. But I do think maybe above anything else, parenting is one of those things where we have to operate from our overflow so that it actually works and is the best. Mm-hmm. But so often we're tired from work, we're tired from each other, we're tired from helping other people or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes we and then our kids don't get our best, which is why we've got to take the responsibility of filling ourselves up,
that's good.
finding that joy, being so full of faith and so full of the word that the flow of our life gets into our kids and into our families and really builds what we set out to build.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I enjoy doing it with you.
I enjoy you.
I enjoy being a parent with you.
What'd you say?
Oh my God.
That's the best finish there ever could have been. You're the best.
That's all she wrote.